Welcome, everyone. It's a Wrap with Rap. I'm your host, Ron Rappaport. This podcast features people who have overcome life's challenges and adversities, people who can inspire, motivate, and educate us on an assortment of topics. My guest today is Dorothy Graham O-Dell. Dorothy is here today to share her incredible journey to a life without limits. She has authored the book, The Overcomer, Facing Challenges with Faith and Courage. Dorothy will talk to us about her being bullied in school, having low self-esteem and self-worth, overcoming an abusive relationship, and family tragedies and trauma. Dorothy has spent many years living her life as others wanted her to. She has found out how to be authentic to herself, and she has overcome so she can help others to do the same. By sharing her story with us, hopefully we will become overcomers to our various unique life situations as well. From Windsor, Ontario, Canada, welcome, Dorothy, to the It's a Wrap with Rap podcast.
Thank you so much, Ronald, for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to get to know you.
Oh, it's an honor to have you. Dorothy, let's start at the beginning. Where did you grow up, and what were your early years like pertaining to your school years, and describe your family life?
Sure. I grew up in a small town called Essex, Ontario, which is not too far from where I am in Windsor right now. Okay. And it's went from there to Tilbury, Ontario, which is even smaller. I started there in grade 2. And I had this, I don't know if you call it an eating disorder. I wasn't eating. And then all of a sudden, so my parents took me to the doctors and they put me on some medication, which made me eat. And I wish I had the antidote to that, because since then, it's like I haven't been able to stop. So with that, came the bullying from my peers in school, and just really had very low self-esteem growing up. And it was hell, basically. And yeah, I don't remember telling my parents too much about it because they were dealing with their own thing. My parents, it seems like we're ill with one thing or another. My mom had went undiagnosed 20 years with angina and lupus, and my dad had a stroke very early in his 30s. So it was just like, I guess you could say constant chaos. But yeah. I mean, we came from a loving family, like we all stuck together. It was just, it seemed like it was always one thing after another.
Well, let's talk about the challenges you have had to face and how they affected you and led you to your all-time low and the need to find yourself. So let's start out with your parents' illnesses. You said, I think your mother had some heart issues, and your dad had some, did he have heart issues, or I know he
had? Well, he had his first stroke at 30, and then they both had diabetes as well. So, and my mom would be tired, couldn't figure out why she was always so tired. She'd come home from work and be on the couch and just really didn't have the energy. Come to find out later that it was, a heart condition that led her to that. And it's really weird. She has like an extra ventricle in her heart. So it's enlarged, and there's an extra one there. Wow. So, I mean, she had a lot of different things going on, and she's just, constantly tired. So I felt like, to overcompensate, I would be, doing the chores, cooking, cleaning, things like that. And I guess you could say I grew up very quickly, taking care of everybody. And it feels like that's what I've spent my entire life doing, has been taking care of other people.
So in other words, they couldn't really do their parenting duties that much due to the illnesses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was cooking and cleaning at a very young age, and very independent.
Yeah. Now, there was a family trauma, I understand.
Yes. My uncle took his life 24 years ago, Christmas Day. He had a lot of different mental health issues, obviously, and had did something in his past that he, I guess, couldn't handle anymore. And so he decided to take his life. He disappeared on Christmas Day, and we did not find the body until March of the following year.
Wow.
So it was nothing for him to pick up and leave. So at first we really didn't think anything of it. We just thought, he was missing. And then we called the police after a little while. I don't even remember how long before we called the police, and they found notes and things like that. So we knew that and then, so we put out a plea, obviously, to the public to see if they had seen him. And some people had said that they had saw a gentleman walk out to the marsh, and the police were out there looking, and they had found a coat and things like that. But the coat was wet, so it was a different color than when it wasn't. And so my dad's like, oh no, that's not my uncle's coat. And turned out it was. My dad and I even had went looking out there around that area, and where they found the body, if we would have took 10 more steps the other way and went into the marsh, she was like right there.
Wow.
So yeah, he drowned. Took some medication so to numb it out, and drowned is basically what had happened. And yeah, it's one of those things that it's like you never forget. And for a long time, it devastated our family. Like it was one of those things where at first we really didn't talk about it, because we were afraid to talk about it. But back then my grandparents were still alive, and my grandfather was completely devastated. And, losing a child that way, obviously, does something to them. So yeah, it's, and that's why part of why I do this is to end the stigma of, keeping quiet, because we all, I'm sure at one point or another, have had thoughts of, maybe life would be better without me at certain points.
Yeah. So, yeah. Can you talk about, among the illnesses and the trauma, the eating disorder, there was an abusive relationship. Can you talk about that challenge?
Yeah, sure. So, I didn't date until I was 25 years old. And my dad kind of was joking and said, oh, you can't date until you're 21. And it's not like anybody wanted to be friends with the overweight girl anyways, or that's how it portrayed it to be. So I fell for the first sunsucker that said, hey, I love you, and because, having that low self-esteem, thinking that you can't get any better and things like that. And so at first it was like slowly controlling, and it was slowly, basically his moods would basically how I would react or act to different things. And, thinking, hey, this is the first guy that's really taken an interest to me. I'll do everything in my power to keep him happy, because that's what people with low self-esteem do. Right. And so, yeah, I allowed myself to be in that relationship for 4 years. And it was, I ended up moving in with him. Wait a minute. We were together for a little while, and then we broke up, and then I went back. Stupid me went back. And then we moved in together. And that was, it was just like, as soon as I moved in, it was like completely, again, different. And then, trying to control you, trying to change you. I couldn't, if heaven forbid, if I changed my mind, then, I was just a piece of crap for changing my mind all the way to, and then they make you think that it's your fault. Well, if you would have done this, then, I wouldn't have said that, or I wouldn't have snapped that, and made you feel that you couldn't, if you left, it's not like you were going to get anybody else or things like that. So it was one of those situations where it was, I didn't really even know where to turn at certain points. The funny thing is, we had some friends that were couples, and I had never experienced that. I had certain friends, but I didn't have couple friends, and I loved his parents and his sisters. Like, they were amazing. So I had that part of it. So I thought, well, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe it's just all me. So, I played that game back and forth until I'm like, clearly this just isn't me. And I gave it my all. And, and I'm not saying I was perfect. I take responsibility for some of the things that didn't work out. But honestly, looking back now, I'm just like, why did I stay so long? And it's funny because I was working 2 jobs to support us. He had been laid off, and even bringing up the thought of him even going to look for another job, he would just get enraged, and his dad tried to talk him into going to look for something else. And then he would snap at his dad. And so finally I got so fed up. I was basically surviving on 4 hours sleep a night between both jobs. And it was insane.
And having to walk on eggshells, right?
And walking that, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And having to walk on eggshells. And then I lost my job. I lost the main job. The plant had closed. And so then I was no good to him anymore. So then it turned into like a silent treatment. So for the last month of our relationship, it's like you could have put the great divide between us, and we barely talked.
I would like to break away for a moment to tell you about a great course our podcast supporter Doug Noll has developed, titled Developing Emotional Competency and Advanced Emotional Competency, sold as one combined item. Doug is an award-winning author, speaker, 22-year veteran trial lawyer, adjunct professor of law, peacemaker, and mediator. Doug co-founded the award-winning Prison of Peace Project, in which he taught murderers and other violent criminals in maximum security prisons to be mediators and peacemakers with positive results. This course will teach you the nature of emotions, the abuse caused by emotional invalidation, and a powerful counterintuitive skill called affect labeling. When you complete the course and practice the skills learned, you will experience a profound transformation in your life. Who is the course for? Smart, ambitious, goal-oriented, get the job done, and pride in doing a good job people. But you are about to be verbally assaulted in a public space by your boss and you freeze. Someone on your team is being a jerk in a meeting and you don't know how to handle the situation. You can't get a word in edgewise with your boss or colleagues. You are not assertive enough or overly assertive and called nasty names. You work with an annoying person that just infuriates you. Your customers are angry and hostile at every turn. Work and personal situations can leave you emotionally drained. You might think something is wrong with you. After all, you are smart, you're educated, you earned your position through hard work. So why are you struggling with emotions? You should have mastered all this by now, right? Wrong. You have been disconnected from your emotions by your upbringing and training. You have been taught to suppress your emotions. They feel like enemies. Consequently, you haven't learned the skills necessary to be emotionally self-aware. This is why you don't always know how to manage your feelings. You were never taught emotional self-regulation other than to shove your emotions down where they couldn't be seen or felt. You are not alone. Everyone suffers from the same difficulties. This course will teach you step by step how to handle emotions in any situation. It is a set of techniques that will teach you to effectively respond to challenging interactions, create a new set of reactions to anger and hostility, to learn the power of emotional self-regulation and social power. You will use your emotions to get ahead in life, become a more powerful and confident leader, unlock the secrets of self-empowerment, become an emotionally self-aware human being, and enjoy greater freedom from emotional exhaustion. This is the first course that teaches emotional self-awareness. The combined course, which includes the basic and advanced course consisting of 23 lessons, sells regularly for $378. For our podcast listeners, by using the link provided in the podcast notes and using the code RONRAP when you enroll in the course, you will get a discount of $100 off the combined course, bringing the cost down to $278. That's about $12 a lesson. The course is backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. If for any reason this course does not exceed your expectation, you can get a full refund anytime within 30 days after your purchase. If you have any issues, just get in touch with the friendly support team, and they'll either help you out until you get the results you need or give you a swift refund. Again, all ordering information will be listed in the podcast notes, and also the course may be ordered on the podcast website. It's awrapwithrap.com under the tab marked resources.
Last month until finally I said, what's your problem? Like, what did I do now? Why are you not talking to me? Oh, I'm not happy. I want you to leave. I'm like, seriously? Now, what he didn't realize is I was waiting till after Christmas. I had planned to leave, but I was going to wait till after Christmas because he had a son. So I was just like, okay, I'm not going to do this to his son like a month before Christmas. But November 3rd is my freedom date. And I celebrate it. It's my Independence Day. Yeah. And it's funny because that date comes around each year and I'm like, yay. Even though I'm happily married now, but that day comes around, it's like, yay. It's like I got rid of the garbage.
With all the illnesses, the trauma, the eating disorder, the low self-esteem, the abusive relationship, did that lead to a lot of loneliness on your part?
Oh, absolutely. I grew up quite a bit introvert and lonely, and that is part of why I decided to come clean. And come clean meaning like share my story, because I know what it's like to be quiet or to be alone and to have just your thoughts. And growing up, I didn't have a whole lot of friends, and because no one wanted to be friends with me, and I really wasn't outgoing back then because for obvious reasons, like at school it was like hell, it wasn't pleasure. So I did hang around with a couple different girls, but like when people would say stuff to me, it's not like they would stick up.
No
so
support.
It was no support.
No support.
So it was easier just to stick by myself, put my head down, read a book is what I was doing. I would basically read a lot back then.
And so there's probably a lot of people out there that can relate to what you were going through. How did you change your attitude and start speaking up for yourself? How long did it take you to work on yourself to get inner healing? And did anyone help you? Did you have coaches or church counselors, or did you just do it by yourself? Tell us how that happened.
Oh, that's a great question, because in that abusive relationship is where I found God and where I found a support system. So I had joined a financial services company, and this lady was heavily involved in our church. And she invited me out to her church and invited me out to some networking events. And she ultimately invited me to a Bible study in her home. So I attended all of that. And in our church at the time, they had what's called Thea Prayer Ministry, who is facilitated by Ed Smith. So I decided to seek that. It was a free counseling service. Basically, it's like an inner healing type thing, getting your lie-based thinking to bring the truth to the lie-based thinking of what you're experiencing, and just really doing some inner healing work. And so it started there. And, as well as within the Bible studies, it was also in there. Met some amazing women that were a great support system. I had a spiritual mother at the time that, helped dig me. Her birthday and I are like 3 days apart, I think. So she took me to this event. It was a Danny Johnson event, and she is a Christian leader, motivational leader, coach. And I went to that event, and that's what had started changing my life, and thinking, okay, get outside of myself. And I was, to be truthful, Ronald, I was really like at my lowest. Like if somebody would have said, here's the gun, pull the trigger, there probably would have been a time that I probably would have done it. But I knew that wasn't what was in my calling, because I knew my uncle had, took his life, and I wasn't going to do that for my nephews. And it's funny because I had a picture of the boys done back when they were really young. And every time I thought like giving up, I would either look at the picture on my wall, or I would have a visual in my head. And every time I wanted to give up, I would bring that picture to the forefront of my mind. And I knew that I could never do that. So I just decided, no matter what, from that moment on, it was nothing but personal development and getting myself out of the hole that I was in. And I just would not stop. And I'm not saying there were moments that, I just kept to myself.
Sure.
But I tried like every day to improve from the day before. And so after I went to that event, there was a guy there that was this big beefcake. Like, this guy was handsome as handsome, and he had a beautiful, amazing fiance. And this other friend, her name is Suzanne, and they both said to me, your smile lights up the room. If you could just get past being so bitter about this situation that I was in, about leaving that a relationship,
right,
you could change the world. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this big, handsome dude just told me this, and we became friends. His name is Tommy. We're still friends on Facebook, and we keep in touch every once in a while. He was a football coach for a college football team in Ohio, and a beach body coach. So,
well, Tommy gave you hope, didn't he?
Yes. Tommy gave me hope. And I thought,
Right.
if Tommy could say this to me, because Tommy
Right.
actually was a big guy before. Like he was, I don't even know how much his heaviest weight was, but he lost a lot of weight and he had the same self-esteem issues that I had. So I thought, if Tommy can do this, I can do this. So,
Right.
keeping that too in the back of my mind. So I had lots of positive reinforcements. And then it just seemed like as I got through each section, it's like God had put me in the direction of somebody else that I needed, to get me to the next level and to get me to the next level. And last year I found this woman. Her name is Jennifer Sahari. And I was trying to get on somebody's podcast. And this woman that had the podcast said, you need to speak to Jen Sahari. And Jen Sahari was put into my life to bring 7 other incredible women into my life that has transitioned me all last year, getting me through my dad's cancer scare and his death which was devastating. Almost took me out again, but didn't. I just kept going, putting one foot in front of the other,
Right.
And just really being a support. And those ladies that we meet Saturday mornings, they're just an amazing support. So I encourage you that if you're going through something, reach out to somebody that
Absolutely.
is not going to let you stop, because,
right.
And that's the whole
You can't,
point.
you can't do it alone.
No.
And this podcast was set up to give people hope. So people out there listening to this are listening to your story, and there might be a lot of people out there with similar stories, and hopefully we can reach some of them.
Exactly.
And that's always been my goal. And it's just amazing how you said that you met these people. And I always say on the podcast, don't say, why is this happening to me? Say, why is this happening for me?
Mm-hmm.
And if you have that attitude, even though something may be negative, there's going to be a positive to it. And that's what I've always found. A door is going to open if you stay positive. Yeah. You talk about self-care. What led you to discover the power of self-care? And tell us about your concept of self-care and any tips for the audience out there about it.
Sure. So basically, as you can tell from my life story that I've shared so far, my life has always been about caring for others and putting everybody else before myself.
Yeah.
And I've always done that until my dad was diagnosed with cancer 3 years ago. And where he was having his treatments, we were, the family was allowed a counselor if they so choose. And I thought, okay, I've been through a lot in my life. I've gotten myself out of every hole that I've ever gotten into, but I felt like my dad was my hero, and my dad was my go-to. If I needed anything, I called my dad. On my way home every day from work, I would call my dad. Like, my dad was my sounding board. And I had just gotten engaged, and then he got cancer. And of course, getting married late in life, the only thing I really wanted was to make sure that my family was around me, and especially to have my dad give me away. So I decided to take advantage of the counselor that was at the cancer clinic. And one of the first questions she asked me is, what is your self-care like? And I laughed at her and I said, what are you talking about? I don't have time.
What's that?
I'm just newly engaged. I'm trying to plan a wedding. My dad just got diagnosed with cancer. Work is like horrendously busy and stressful as heck. So I don't have time for self-care. Plus I have a stepson too that I was helping at the time. Like, when he was here, I was helping with his care. I'm like, I just don't have it. I take care of the house myself. This, I don't have it. She goes, well, you're going to have to find time or you're going to be dead within a year, because you are on all full cylinders. And then, you just got this news. And really, how can you help your dad get through this if you yourself are burnt out?
Right.
So I had like a session a week with her until, unfortunately, she was moved to a different hospital. So I lost my sounding board, but she did give me a bunch of tools, and those tools were basically, meditation and finding time for yourself, and just really if you can't find an hour in your day for yourself, then you really have more problems than what you really thought.
Yeah.
And, just driving home those things. And, when you get into that pit of anxiety or depression, because they're going to hit no matter what, like life always constantly throws you something.
Yeah.
So
We're human.
be
We're
prepared
human.
for it. Right.
Yeah. Right.
So for myself, so I've become like the world's biggest self-care advocate because, I went from having nothing to forcing myself to have at least an hour a day for myself.
Okay.
So for me, I get up. Yes, I do get up early. I get up at 4. I do some kind of workout. I do my meditation. And then I do 5 to 10 gratitudes, something I'm grateful for. Because if you start your day up with gratitude, it sets your day. It sets your entire day for more of it, right?
Sure.
And I've also just incorporated 3 wins. So what were my wins for the day? And then what am I going to set up my wins for tomorrow? So I'm constantly making sure that I'm in a constant winning mode is what I've set my life up to be. And, if I don't get those 3 things done, what did I learn from it? Because learning from it is also a win. So constantly looking at your life as a win instead of like, oh crap, here we go again.
Right. Positivity.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, Ron, a couple of years ago, my husband's like, well, what do you want to do for your birthday? I'm like, I want a giant water balloon fight. So yes, 43 years old, we're out in my backyard and we had a family water balloon fight. Now my husband's got 19 people in his family, so it's not a small family. And we're out there and we're having fun. Everybody at first thought, you're insane. Like, you're insane. But everybody had fun. And then afterwards, they thanked me for it. So,
sure.
Do something that you love. I love dancing, even if it's putting your earbuds in and dancing around the kitchen. Who cares if you look like an idiot? Like, who cares?
You're enjoying yourself. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, we talked about, before we went on the air, about your mentoring people. How do you go about mentoring others to have your mindset to help others and take up that overcomer attitude and expand on what is the overcomer attitude that you teach or your mentor?
Right. So basically, how I do that is I do it in a couple of different ways. So I usually daily, I do like a motivational or inspirational video. So that is always on my social media channels. Okay. Whatever God puts on my heart is what I talk about. And if there's no video that day, then he's telling me to be silent. So I do that, as well as I believe everybody has a story. So yes, I wrote my book. I wrote my life story about how I overcome, but I also believe that each one of us has a story. And I believe our lives are 100% connected to other people. So if we stay silent, we could actually be doing a disservice to somebody else. And Correct. That's why I am really huge on getting people's stories out there. So there's 3 things I do. I have a Monday night show. It's called the Unstoppable Overcomers, which I have other amazing overcomers on the show that share their story. And then they share how they've overcome, but also how they help others to overcome, because I'm a big proponent of giving back. I'm constantly giving back to my community and things like that. The second thing is I wanted to give back to the business owner, because I believe that, sometimes business can be tricky and things like that. And not everybody is 100%. I say we should just all collaborate and be this together is what I think, but that's not how everybody thinks. So I have a Wednesday show called Power Half Hour, Unstoppable Business Owner, which highlights and showcases a business owner. They have to, tell me what they do, 3 things that they have overcome to get them to where they're at in business, and 3 things they help their business owner or their client overcome. And then it's just like a conversation like we're having right now. But I just wanted to give back and just highlight these amazing business people that are out there hitting the pavement. And they can advertise on my show. That's one thing they can do, but not necessary if they don't want to. And another thing I do is, because I'm an author, I know what it's like to, you write your book and then what's next, right? So
Right.
by the time this show airs, I will be doing book reviews and helping those authors get the word out about their stories, their books. So I'll be doing book reviews. There's be different packages where they can go from just putting it on my website to actually having a professional interview done with them, promoting and highlighting them and their books. So
That's awesome.
Well, thank you. So yeah, I've thought of everybody from the average ordinary Joe to the business owner to the author. And believe it or not, Ron, this is my ultimate dream, is to have my shows syndicated and to be on national television for the world to see. Because
Wow.
I truly believe that this is what the world needs. The world doesn't need more Maury Povich. Not that that's a bad show, but I think the world needs more positivity. So I'm also getting together a pitch to get onto national syndicated.
Wow. That sounds
shows.
great. That sounds great. Dorothy, what sparked your interest or desire to write your book and open up to being vulnerable in public about your life? And what inspired you to write your story, The Overcomer? And was it hard for you to write it, or did it just spew out, or with no problem, or was it hard? How did that go?
Sure. So basically, you nailed it when you said, did my life feel alone back when I was growing up? And absolutely. And even as an adult, it was lonely. Like, I took 10 years of my life after leaving that abusive relationship to really find who I was again. Yes, I wanted to be married, but I also wanted to make sure that I didn't spew anything that I had left over onto, a future husband. So I had been just randomly talking to a friend, and I said, I should write my life story. And she says, you absolutely should. And I'm like, but who's going to read it? And so God had been on me for 5 years to write this book. And I wanted to write it because I wanted people to know that they were not alone in their circumstances, and that there was somebody else that had gone through it. And if I could go through it, so could they. And so the pandemic hit. And so God's like, okay, girl, you've got an extra hour. You don't have to drive to work anymore. So it was actually in 3 months, the book was written. And it wasn't really, it was more like a therapy, because I had went back through some journals I journal a lot, but normally I never go back. I don't believe in looking at the past. I believe in just going forward. So for me to look in my journals is very rare that I do that. And I don't know. I think it's because my dad always said, if we forget something, I'm never turning back. If he hated going back when we were driving. So I think I had that stuck in my mind as quick, don't go back, just go forward. And so it was therapeutic, getting all that out there. Like I talk about my abusive relationship. I talk a little bit about my uncle. I talk about my parents and their illnesses. I talk about meeting my husband.
So Dorothy, this sounds like it was pretty cathartic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's great.
And also to put a positive spin on it, because if I can find happiness, anybody can find happiness, really.
How did your family react to the book? I mean, they're in the book, so what was their reaction to this?
Well, to tell you the truth, I really didn't even tell them I was writing it until it was already written.
Oh, really?
And then my editor's like, you really got to talk to your parents, because I went into depth when my mom had her heart surgery. Yeah. And she's like, just so that, your mom can't come back on you, you really got to tell her. And I was like, okay. So my parents were like, okay. And I said, do I have your permission? Because I had to get them to sign off on some things. And my mom, I said, I'm doing it to help others. So then that was the censure. My parents were like, yeah, okay, fine. As long as it will help somebody else, then I guess then that's it.
That's a good line, Dorothy. You can't lose with that line. Dorothy, is there another book in the works? I look at you and I see a lot of energy. Is there another book in the works?
Yes, as a matter of fact, it's funny that you say that, because not too many people know, but I do have what's called the Overcomer Playbook coming out. Right now it's at the editors, getting just like the design and the cover and all that. So I hope to have that out very soon.
Okay.
By the time this hits, it will probably be out.
All right. The book is a reflection of your life experiences. What do you hope the readers take away from reading the book?
I hope that they take that no matter what, not to give up, and that they are never alone in their circumstance, and to keep going. Like, just keep putting one foot in front of the other. There were days, honestly, Ronald, I can tell you that I would have to breathe deeply every minute until I went to bed. But then when I woke up, it was better the next morning. Every time I woke up, it seemed like, I woke up with a solution, and just pray your way through it, because, nothing happens without him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Where can people buy the book?
You can definitely get it on Amazon or on my website, unstoppableovercomers.com.
Okay. And we're going to put this information in the podcast notes for everybody out there. You offer the Overcomer Academy. Can you tell us about that? What's involved with it? What are the things offered? And I'm assuming it's virtual.
Yes. Well, that's funny that you asked that, because so the Academy, in how God's vision was, it was supposed to be in a school, and it was supposed to help the homeless. It was supposed to help women that have been abused. It was supposed to be some kind of, financial services, help for people who needed it. It was supposed to be basically anything that you could need help for. It was supposed to be all in this one place. Well, God has expanded it to be more like a virtual thing, because what I'm doing now is not really inside of a school. What I'm doing is too big to be inside of a school. So It's like I'm involved with the homelessness in my community. I'm involved with cancer, different cancer organizations. I'm helping a friend with a fundraiser for LLS, but I'm also planning on having a golf tournament in my dad's honor closer to October. So I'm doing that. Plus, I'm also working with veterans. On my show, we've had several different veterans and first responders, and they are huge in my heart, because a lot of my family members have either gone through cadets or through the armed forces, or a combination of both. And I always, my heart is always with them and their families. So my mission is to get their mission to be number one. So we're actually working right now with a veteran and his organization called Camaraderie Rescue Mission Coffee Exchange. So we are also selling coffee, and half the proceeds go back to helping a veteran, and then the other half goes to us so that we could, enhance the show and do things like that. But yes, so we're doing that, and there's going to be more added, working with abused women and things like that will come as I expand. And we're working with another first responder who will be on the show in a couple of weeks, build his organization, and his organization is huge, and he is going to be dealing with fellow police officers. So we're going to be working with him, helping people to overcome PTSD. Is basically every one of those episodes is the common denominator is helping with PTSD and mental health issues, because there is a lot of that going on right now, especially with the pandemic and things like that has happened. Right. So let's get them the help they need so that we can help others as well, is basically the gist of it.
So Dorothy, you're doing a lot, and when you say us and we, do you have some help, or are you doing this all by your lonesome?
I do have a business partner, Kimberly Genovese, and so she and her and I are like kind of we're a force to be reckoned with. If you think I have energy, she has just about as much energy.
Because I was getting a little worried. I mean, you may need a little more self-care if you're doing this all by yourself.
No. I have an amazing business partner that helps me and keeps me on track. Good. Yeah, because I do have a full-time job too, but
oh wow.
Yeah, I'm hoping that things start turning around and I can just focus on what I need to focus on instead of the job.
Dorothy, what excites you going forward with your work? What excites you the most?
My excitement is in helping others. So I know that we're on a path to create 1 million people being free from fear, from whatever stopping them to getting to where they want to be in life. So, and when I think of the future, I think of this giant production company that we are in the works of creating that are going to help these people share their story to the masses. So you got to start small to get big. So we're starting small to go big. And that excites me. It excites me to know that millions of people's lives will be transformed. That's what excites me.
That's great. Dorothy, please leave us with some last minute words of wisdom for our audience out there.
Definitely never give up. Find your why and keep it in front of you like a carrot. Reach out to people for help. Surround yourself with amazing, incredible people that will not let you get up on yourselves, for sure.
Okay.
Definitely
good advice. Where can people contact you, Dorothy?
You can definitely contact me on LinkedIn. Is my number one place. Is where I'm at all the time. Dorothy Graham O-Dell, and Facebook. I'm on there. Dorothy Graham O-Dell, and my website unstoppableovercomers.com as well.
Okay, you said LinkedIn was Dorothy M. Graham O-Dell?
Dorothy Ann. So Dorothy and then ANN.
Okay. Dorothy Ann Graham O-Dell. Yeah. And Facebook is Dorothy Graham O-Dell.
Yes.
And the website is unstoppableovercomers.com. For everybody out there listening, that's all going to go into the podcast notes, so you don't have to take notes right now. Thank you so much, Dorothy, for being on the podcast, for sharing your story, and for giving us your insights into the work you are doing to help as many people as you possibly can. Your work is originating from above. It is truly a godsend, and I wish you all the good fortune and success in the world going forward. Comments and suggestions to improve the podcast, you can email me at itsarapwithrap@gmail.com. We have a Facebook page and a Facebook group. Our group is growing very well. We're almost up to 800 people. That's It's a Rap with Rap. Instagram, It's a Rap with Rap podcast. All the episodes are on YouTube. It's a Rap with Rap, the podcast uncut. Thanks everyone for listening. Please stay safe. And for now, it's a wrap.